Alright. Announcements are going out. Bunch of people that seemed interested on LinkedIn too, so hopefully we got some fun people.
Nice. And you can see everyone listed on each kind of thing, or
Kinda.
yeah,
It's not the best at showing LinkedIn. I have to jump over to that directly, and but the other ones I can kind of see and when people pop in or pop out.
yeah.
But yeah, all right. Well, let's just start and we'll see if more people join and we'll go from there. So, Blake, please introduce yourself.
Sure. Gary, as you know, I'm Blake Baxter, the co founder and co CEO of Immersive Enterprise Laboratories, as well as Craig Silverstein, as you know. We have Minerva Engine that we're working on, which is a business intelligence, human intervention plus by AI tool. Um, and then I also have a investment group out of Singapore, which operates like a family office, kind of VC private equity in style, based out of Singapore, called Black Run Partners. My experience and background is building and scaling companies with my background in socioeconomic theory on a global scale, global level, whether it's region based or global or just one specific country itself, but understanding the nuances that are involved in what it takes to do that, and the various partners and setting up JVs and stuff like that all over. Beyond that, experience in technology goes really around the space of emerging technology. It's why my business partner with IEL, Daniel Urbach, we created Immersive Enterprise Laboratories because of essentially an entirely new way of doing animation. For the past 100 years, it's been done in a linear form, linear way, and it's destructive. Where to move forward, you have to destroy what you did before. Our process does it in a way that is iterative. So what you do, you're building upon, unless it is really, really bad and you just need to scrap everything, but you're able to build upon, which creates all the efficiencies with it. And in doing so, when you're connecting and talking with creatives, it allows them to feel a lot more flowing with their creative ideas, and it's not like that they know that whatever they do is going to be thrown away. So it really is unlocking on the creative side, and then on the economics and the executive side, it reduces the cost, in the range of a tenth to a 20th of what the cost is for typical CG 3D animation. And so we have amazing output. It's not a cheap animation or anything like that, but we are doing quite amazing stuff. So yeah, hopefully that's good. I'll stop there so we can
No,
get
that's
into
good.
things. Right?
It's
Yeah.
awesome. Again, like I say this all the time, but one of the coolest things about you is that you have a lot of different experience in different roles and different sides of like the the ecosystem that exists for business as investor, as founder, as employee, different areas, and then your sociology background is always interesting to kind of bring up and kind of highlight. Uh, you know, one of the biggest things that we try to focus on with these is the human aspect, right? Like remember you're a human, and do what's right for your well-being and the well-being of others and all that. So it's always like a very important aspect of what you do that you bring to your ventures and your mentorship. Um, Doylan joined us over at LinkedIn. Now I'm curious, Doylan, if you have any questions specifically for Blake, but I do notice that you have an AI powered interview prep startup that you're working on. How far along are you with that? If you want to share, and if you want to post in chat, like again, any questions for Blake regarding operations or investing, fundraising, anything like that, or anything else you can come up with, but also your elevator pitch. Elevator pitches are important in regards to just being able to effectively communicate what you're working on, so other people can get a little bit of like, understanding and hopefully an interest. My mic is quiet. All right, thank you, doctor, over on Twitch. Hopefully this is better now. But yeah,
Oh, our
okay.
doctor friend is back.
The doctor friend is back. The doctor
Uh,
is always on call. All right,
Miss
so
Spirit.
yeah. All right, so Dylan says Mosai is an AI powered interview coach that helps job speakers practice and improve their interview skills in a realistic, personalized way. Instead of generic prep, Mosai creates tailored mock interviews based on your role, seniority, and industry. So whether you're a junior designer or a senior backend engineer, you're getting questions that match real world expectations. You speak your answers out loud, and Mosai listens, responds, and provides instant, actionable feedback and to help you improve your delivery, clarity, and confidence. Think of it as a personal interview simulator available 24/7, designed to help you land your next opportunity faster. That's actually, I mean, Blake, you give me your feedback first. As far as like, a quick elevator pitch, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I think I think it's really cool. I think it definitely can be shortened down a lot because I think there's some redundancies, and that's not trying to knock anything else. Is more of anything I'm saying right here is that it is really just to sharpen things, right? I do think that it is compelling and is really interesting, and part of the reiteration that I am hearing as you read that is because it's solidifying or it's using repetition to make sure that the person who's hearing it understands and knows. That's not like these other AI tools that are out there where it's generic and just, hey, what's your favorite color type interview questions kind of things, right? Where this actually goes into specifics, which that's really interesting, right? So it's kind of, rock and hard place. How do you refine that and distill, right? Because of the various exercises that are out there. How do you say all of that in just one sentence, right? How do you say that in the fewest words possible and using the most impactful words as well? Yeah. Those are initial comments. So, yeah.
I think those are great, and it kind of echoes a lot of what we talk about when we do our pitch to your peers workshops. Doylan, there's two different types of elevator pitches. There's the elevator pitch that you have in more casual, organic situations where you're at a networking event, you meet someone, and for those, Blake's absolutely right. You want to keep it as short as possible, a sentence or two. The goal there is to hook someone to want to have a conversation with you, to learn more. And then you can get into more of these details as you have that discussion with them. And you want to kind of continuously seed more little nuggets that make them more invested, more interested, and want to get deeper into the details with you. Now, if you were doing an elevator pitch where, say, you're at like, competition, or you're at like a larger event on stage and they're like, hey, come up on stage and give a quick elevator pitch, then you can give a longer one, kind of like this. But Blake's, again, absolutely correct with the advice and feedback. You don't want to be redundant. You want to make sure that every word you use is expertly chosen and, again, intended to hook someone and not lose their attention. Because if you're doing these types of things in front of a crowd and such, there's a billion things going on, right? They're going to lose attention really, really fast. So the shorter and more concise it is, the less redundant it is, the more effective it's likely to be. And then when you get off stage, or the spotlight's not on you, then everyone knows to go talk to you. That is going to be of interest to you. That they felt a connection, a compulsion to learn more. Yeah. Hi, David.
I would even think too, it's sort of like in that sense of it, it's where a lot of people in the audience might be just looking down at their phones, right? I'm, guilty of that too. And all of a sudden there's a word that perks them up and they're like, wait, what? That's different, right? And then all of a sudden they might be more engaged there. Like there's all these different elements of it. So picking key words that differentiate itself and also leaning away from sort of industry jargon that's in it, right? Because then it sounds like just, okay, this is another AI thing, right? It sounds like it's not, because there is something specific that is more compelling to it, but you don't want someone to just classify it as like, oh, it's just another thing here, right? In this world and in this industry. So then keying on it, you're able to get that sort of reaction that Gary's talking about, where it's like, whoa, 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 hey, like I just overheard you saying that. I'm interested in learning more. Tell me more. That's when you go into your conversational aspect to it, where you can be repetitive and you can do all those things, right? Also waiting for them to also be able to respond to you and say, hey, this is what I think, or this is what I'm interested in. Making sure that you do recognize that they are probably going to want to talk to you, right? So all those like little key points to it, right? Also kind of doing it in the most distilled way. So anyone who isn't even in AI, but would want to either be using your product or be, engage with your product, invest, like, because there's the investing behind the product, to support the product, to advise it, to, connect you with people that might be great with it. Who knows what it is, but you want all those aspects to happen. So then you can have those conversations that then lead to it, right? So distilling it down, removing jargon. I'm guilty of that too. I know, and that's just it. So yeah.
Appreciate the additional insights. Hang on, Doylen's posting. Doylen appreciates the feedback and will do their best to apply that. And then in regards to a more direct question, I would love your guys' expertise on is kind of, in a sense, getting past this barrier of initial users. I've been live for 1 week now, officially today, congrats, and have been trying to garner impressions and engagement, but have been having a hard time converting to users actually using it. It's my first time, so definitely trying to learn as much as possible and scale my application. Okay, so to kind of read this back, the summary is you built this product, you're able to reach some people, but you're having a hard time converting them to actual users and consistently keeping their engagement. So, Blake, what sort of advice, feedback do you have in regards to this trouble?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the metrics are looking like specifically, right? It would be like really kind of getting into what's causing it. So just off that information alone, what I would say is that there's a lot of people that are out there that I don't want to. The easiest way to say it is dismiss AI, right? But sort of like not understand the power that goes into to do what you crafted this product to be doing, right? So they're looking at like, oh, what can I get for free? What can I get in the freemium kind of sense of it, right? And they're just testing it out, right? And the more data, the more analytics that you're able to get behind that, and then you're converting people. That's essentially that's where you're at, right? What the solution to that is to actually get that conversion, it's where to like go target certain groups if you want the freemium support, where it's like, hey, here's the baseline for it. I don't know what your model is, so it's tough to do currently right now, rather than speaking sort of generalized with it. But it's like, go after, colleges, universities that need this type of thing. Go after various groups, organizations where they have people who are interviewing for things. I would also look at recruiting, right? Recruiters, because they're setting their clients up for these positions to be able to test them, to go through it. And recruiter is having to go through every single one of their people. So those, I would say, are kind of like target places. But look at the end user of who would be using this in sort of a larger scale role and version of it. Maybe have select ones where you reach out to people. I don't know what your network looks like, but talk to people, be like, hey, I want to test this tool with this. So use it kind of like as an if-then statement, as a thesis statement, however it is, to look at it, and then approach each kind of category there. But I would just kind of go for most bang for buck scenario here, where it's like large groups of people that need this type of service, so then they can push it out to their group, however that might look. So
Yeah, I mean, Blake, you're touching on really important stuff at this stage in a product's life cycle. It's very common for founders to want to try to go as fast as possible and reach as many people as they can. And oftentimes they are dumping capital into marketing campaigns, ad buys, and also if they don't have the capital, then they're going on forums and just spamming everywhere is the common stuff. But what you just described is the best place to start, and the most effective way to start is going through your network, your relationships that you already have with, and identify people who are the most likely to be excited to learn about this offering, to enjoy using it, benefit from it, and find value in it, and go one by one. And just, if you don't have those relationships, like no one in your circle fits that target customer profile or ideal customer profile, start to look at who they're connected to. And then, you know, leverage that common connection. Be like, oh, I'm also friends with this person. I noticed that you do this. I would love, you to try this. I'm working on this, and really hone in on getting as much feedback and insight as you can, while also working towards testing those assumptions, those core assumptions that these people are going to be excited about this, they're going to enjoy this, they're going to benefit from this and find value in it, right?
Yeah.
And you just go one by one and work with them. And similar to the premise of those elevator, pitches being organic, leading to organic discussions, you want to really focus on that with these people at this stage, because you have so many assumptions that are yet to be proven, yet to be tested, and you still need to iterate all these different elements of how you operate your business, the product, the marketing and sales, and then your operations, right? So this is really good stuff that you're honing in on. Doylan says, it is really new, so I have been getting visits on the web app, but haven't been seeing the users converting to signups for even the freemium tier. There is currently a free and pro tier, but have been trying to at least capture the interest of the users interested in trying it out to hopefully build up the hype.
Yeah, I would again say I would look at, because like what you want to go after in this stage, right, is again the use case scenarios of it, right? So go after kind of like these the people who are actually talking to people that are interviewing on a regular basis and are professionals with it, to kind of prove that, hey, here's uh why am I blanking on the word? Not references, testimonials. Sorry, guys. So testimonials for what you're doing, right? So then all of a sudden recruiting, this recruiter who does X, Y, Z, their name is out there. They can say, hey, this actually saved my job this amount of time by doing this, 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 and I was able to place these amount of people this much quicker. Like how is this tool actually benefiting, right, in a metrics form, and also the testimonial of how they personally feel that this tool does it well, right? If all you're focusing in on is people just coming to a platform and thinking that, oh, I turn the light on and hopefully people come, it's not going to happen that way, right? It could by chance, but you need to really push this yourself and make those connections. So then you're talking with people. Also, what I would always say too is it's the reason why you saw a lot of these consumer facing services that are out there. An example is like an Uber, Airbnb, etc. They moved to a more enterprise model with their business, because they realize that these larger check sizes is actually what can prop them up when there's downturns in economy and travel and whatever else that's happening out there. So just look at that. I would push on this. Do what you can to actually not just drive traffic to the site, but also have the user experiences that we're talking about. Make a list of targets that could use this type of thing, that do have access to a groups of people that essentially this can benefit. And I think that's the next steps to be able to make those types of conversions. And some of those, again, might have to be like you giving them premium just to test it out, so you can get those testimonials to see. But that's going to pay off for you in the long run. You're kind of investing in yourself at that point. So,
Hang on, I'm looking at comments here. I don't know if this is gonna work or not. Doctor over on Twitch is looking at your landing page, Doylan, and the summary is that you're creating way too much friction between in the onboarding process, and it's creating too much complexity and hurdles to get through in order to experience what your product is offering. Um, I'll post some comments in a moment on the LinkedIn, but yeah, like from a UX standpoint, especially with a product like this that people don't really know what to expect from it yet, even if it's like a free tier, you want to allow them to experience it as quickly as possible and know what it does and how it functions and experience that so they get again invested in it. And once they're invested, then they'll sign up for that account, right? Give them an opportunity to kind of trial it, and then if they want to continuously use it, right? So in this case, maybe they're able to, without signing up, play around with it for like 5 minutes, like, interacting with it. And once it hits that 5 minute mark, then you pop them up, a notice that if they want to keep doing it, they can sign up for the free account or the paid account, right? And at that point, there you got like a sense of it. There's going to be a higher chance that they're going to convert and sign up and use it. But there's also a couple other little like issues that he's calling attention to in regards to some of the context around the role and what it's interviewing around. But that's fine because this is an MVP. It's a starting point. It's supposed to have some of these rough edges, and that's why again it's so important to do some of these early validation tests and trials with a much smaller group of people that you can have this very intimate interaction with, so you can get the most information out of them on a one-on-one basis to continuously refine what you're doing before you start pushing it to as many people as possible. Where if you're just running like ad impressions and stuff like that to drive traffic to it, it's going to be very difficult for you to keep up with any of them and have those conversations because they're just, random people finding their way to the website and bouncing, right? Versus you reaching out to someone personally and be like, hey, I really appreciate trying this out and I want to learn from you and have this conversation with you. Well, you know who you reached out to. They know you connected with them, and then you can follow up when you know that, oh, they're not using it. You can be like, oh, hey, I really appreciate learning a little bit more. Like, did I create too much friction? Were there points of confusion? Did you get frustrated with this? How can I improve it, right? So it's going to be really important to kind of again, do this in a much more one-on-one way where it's not about scaling as quickly as possible right now. It's about learning as much as you can right now. Okay, Doylan says, that makes a lot of sense. Let them play with it right away. My only fear was cost when it comes to AI generative usage and STT and TTS, but we'll definitely look into giving a more limited free but no signed up experience and hope it captures their interest. Yeah. Hi, Will. Another person joining us over on Start Mata. Will, since you're new here, feel free to raise your hand if you want to join us up on stage. Those of us on Start Mata can use microphone and camera optional, but you're welcome to use it to ask, have a conversation with Blake directly. If you're not on Start Mata, post questions in chat like we're doing on Twitch and LinkedIn and YouTube, and then I'll relay them to Blake. We'll take a moment away from Doylan and go to Andrew's question. Blake, how do you make people more excited through your pitch?
There's so many different ways to do this. I was at an event with Gary the other week, and it was quite impressive. The speaker talking about how to pitch, and again, calling in those action words, body language, right? If you're doing visual with it, just how you're presenting yourself, period. And it inspired this guy. It was hilarious because he gets up there and he talks about like wasting money, and he just chucks his wallet across the room. Everyone's head popped up. It was a commotion. It was funny, right? It grabbed people in, and all of a sudden he just said his pitch. It was so quick after that, right? He didn't like blur through it, but he said it's quick enough and it's so concise that all of a sudden people are like, everyone just like literally just applauded afterwards and like, I want to know what more about that, right? So it's sort of like what you have as a speaker personally that can capture someone in, right? Even the speaker that day, she like put her hand on her hip and was like, yeah, that was on purpose. I popped it like that because then that's a visual cue that you're kind of engaging in on, right? Think of the human senses that are out there, right? Yes, there's the five senses, but there's actually like this whole thought that there's over 30 senses, right, that you can deal with because it's different emotions that you're going into. However you see it, whichever one you're looking at, appeal to senses, right? There is a room, there's visuals, there's how you look, what your body language is doing, what you are saying. Are you excited about this? Are you just reading words, right? Are you saying things with intent, right? Are you saying things in a passive way? Are you timid with it? You can tell if someone is timid, but they also know a lot about what they're saying. You can also tell when someone is just blasting through and reading words. And it's like, wait, do you even know what the words that you just said is? It reminds me of when I did like a French report in college, and I was just reading French that I thought I was saying was intelligible and could be understood, and it was like the worst thing ever that was done, right? And the teacher said, hey, refine this, gave me all these guidance points on it. I'm like, yeah, that's a very good point. I literally was just reading it. I knew what I had written, right? But as I was saying it, it was just that time. There's a lot of things to do, and I know some of this is a little bit vague and generalized, right? But think of yourself, right? Ask your friends just ask your close friends, 5 people, 2 people, 1 person, whomever it is that you just trust. Say, what are things that I do that are engaging for another person, right? Hone in on what your strengths are and avoid the weaknesses, and then you can try to uplift your weaknesses. But the hack to it is just to really lean into all the strengths that you have and then perform from there, right? Again, it comes down to being concise, which I know this is long in the tooth of an explanation, but be as concise as possible. Use words that are not necessarily jargon from that specific industry, but still use like do jargon that isn't always there, right? But also maybe a word here and there that is jargon enough, but it's also understood. Bring it down to what I call lowest common denominator in the room. So speak to the least informed person. I don't want to say dumbest, right? The least informed person, because they might not know a lot about whatever that is, but it could be an angel is like, oh, I do know an expert in that, and that's the reason why I'm going to invest in it, whatever it might be. There's a whole slew of that, but really kind of honing in concise, make it exciting and fun. And again, the goal is to bring someone in and closer to it, to be like, I want to learn more, right? It is so that you can have a conversation, and that whatever your pitch isn't filling what will be in that conversation. What happens in that conversation with whomever it is, if it's a group conversation or if it's a one-on-one conversation, that's when you talk about the little nuances that are floating in your head that you're so excited about and you want to get out there and you want every single person to know about. Just use the buzz things, right? Use the buzz things.
I love that. And yeah, like building on that, it's always important to remember that your pitch is a persuasive story, right? And think about the most entertaining, compelling, enjoyable stories that you've experienced, whether that's film, books, comics, whatever. There's very specific factors that repeat themselves throughout all of those, right? They're easy to follow. The story structure flows in a way that builds more and more as it goes. It keeps the characters and the plot lines very cohesive and easy to, again, follow and understand. And you want to design your pitch in a similar way, utilizing everything that Blake already touched on, right? So just always remember the pitch is a persuasive story, and the more energetic, the more the better you are at telling that story to lay those little hooks along the way, the more effective it is. More likely someone's going to stay with you as you tell it versus going off all these different tangents or getting confused, frustrated, and just being done with it and walking away. Let's see. Doylan says, thank you very much. This is very valuable feedback. As a solo dev, it's hard for me to see things from all point of views, especially due to the lack of experience. But these are great suggestions, and I will absolutely work on them. Good, Doylan. That's the whole point of why we do this and why Blake's an amazing mentor. A lot of experience, a lot of opportunities to make mistakes and see others around us make mistakes and relay those and help others avoid that and have a higher chance of success. And if it's not events like this, don't be shy about reaching out to people you admire. LinkedIn's great for that, but other areas in your community that you can, find people, shoot them an email, pick up the phone and call them. If it's, you can find their work office, ask if you can get transferred to them, and just be honest and open. Hey, I am, early stage, entrepreneur. I'm just, looking to ask them for some feedback. Put yourself out there, see what happens. Worst, they say no, right? Big deal. There's lots of people in the world to learn from and connect with. Just remember to be respectful and gracious, and don't act entitled. Don't be impatient, and don't be a nuisance. You don't need to be bugging someone every few days, every week. Give enough time, enough space. And then the great thing too is that if you give enough space before trying again, you have more to share with them in regards to the journey that you're on, and be like, oh, since the last time I talked or I tried to connect with you, I talked to these mentors and I did these things, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your feedback as well, or having a conversation with you too, right? That's really great because it demonstrates that you're not just waiting around. You're someone that's getting stuff done.
That's a really good point, Gary. Just because I think this is so important that a lot of people don't realize anymore. It used to be you had an idea, right? I know the good old days, right? But it used to be you had an idea, and to get that MVP, you're like, hey, I need $100,000, right? You go out there and you go pitch it, and they're like, hey, here's a check for it, right? That's not happening at all, right? Where you might need investors, advisors, people that are kind of like seeing progress, right? You might be saying, hey, this is what we need, this is what I need, blah 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 blah. And if you're not showing any progress momentum with literally no capital, or and using the resources and the tools that are around you or in your wheelhouse to not make progress, they're going to think you're stagnant, and that the only thing you're waiting on is the things that they can offer you. They're gonna be less inclined to help, because they're like, well, if this person can't do it without me, like I'm the key, and ego, whatever else might be involved in that, they're like, why do I have to put all this effort in if this person can't even do it themselves, right? I think that it's collectives that help support people, right, and get things done. I think even Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about, back when he came to the U.S. initially, I don't know how many people know this, but he had a like cement or construction company that he was already a millionaire before he was an actor and stuff like that. But he even talks about, he's like, people talk about how I'm self-made, and he's like, I'm insulted by that. I had a huge network and huge support system around me that allowed me to be quote unquote self-made, but I'm not self-made. It's the support network. And I think everyone needs to lean on that and understand that the people who are where they are today is because important key people in their lives. And maybe it's not even necessarily key people, but it's a person who is like, hey, when you're in this scenario, they recognize it and they said, hey, what support do you need, right? Or it's you being able to go and approach certain people and say, hey, I need something right now, and it's something that is little to them but huge for you at the same time. Anyway, back to it. Make progress. Always continue to make progress, and that's where you're going to see a lot of your successes come from.
Yeah, I love that story, like bringing that up too. And the other thing to remember is that it's all about the effort. It's not really about the accomplishments. It's something that kind of like you're touching on, people seeing you putting in the effort, it makes them feel like if they contribute to that, that effort that you're doing, it's not going to be wasted. At least it's going to be appreciated, right? But like, Blake, you're saying, if someone's just waiting around, it feels like anything that they do is going to be wasted. It's not worth their time. And, for good or bad, it's how most people, act. So just do your best within, your limitations, your restrictions, to just continuously put in that effort. And it doesn't need to be obsessive, because that's, there's extremes to both this. Like, to the best of your ability, and I know, like, there's a lot of different situations, whether financially or health wise or something else, that make it harder for, some people to put as much effort as they like to. But at the same time, you don't want to be obsessive and working all the time and only doing that. That too is something that is going to drive a lot of people away. And if you're seen as someone that's obsessively working on only this, and you don't have room for, your family, personal relationships, taking care of yourself, engaging in other things that life has to offer, you're going to come off it like a weirdo, a freak. And that too is going to feel like, a wasted effort too, because you're just too hyper fixated on a single thing. And that's not what most people are drawn to either. Yeah. Hang on real quick. Okay, so Andrew, I'm waiting on you to expand on this a little bit, but we can like, get into it to start with. So Andrew asked another follow-up question. Do you think it's a good idea to pitch in a way where comedians tell their stories, the way they say it during stand-ups? So I'm trying to wait for a little bit more clarity on what you mean, Andrew, in regards to that approach. But Blake, I'm sure you can, like, given that you've seen a lot of pitches and been around a lot of this, you can kind of
Yeah, no,
extrapolate some of that.
I kind of think I understand what Andrew's getting at with it, and if I'm wrong, then I'm going to speak to something completely in my own assumptions to it. But I think what it is, it's a stage performance. 100% it is, right? And the way that comedians set up their story, it's getting someone to be that much more engaged, and then all of a sudden, boom, wherever the punchline hits, right, or multiple punchlines in the story that make it so funny and engaging. That's, I think, what might be the question here. And if so, if that's a skill that you have, go out there and go crush it, because the best comedians have the best delivery, and they grab people in. Not to say controversial names or anything like that, but Dave Chappelle, I think, is one of the best storytellers in comedy. Period. The way that he does his callbacks as well, where all of a sudden he can be on stage for an hour, and all of a sudden he says something in the first 5 minutes, and then at the very end he does his mic drop and he says, "All right, I'm out," and he just goes back to the callback on it, right, and makes it even funnier from when whatever he said the first time. So yeah, to that point, I think if that's something you can do, freaking rock on, do it. Yeah.
Yeah, another investor that's, unfortunately hasn't been hanging out with us as much due to scheduling issues, but Asher Leeds. One of the things that
Yeah.
he was always talking about during his mentorship time with us is, you want to definitely have moments where you get people to laugh. It makes them more engaged. It keeps them following more. But you got to be careful, because you got to make sure that, yeah, you have the skill set to do that in a way that doesn't come across as you're trying too hard. And that's where, again, you want to find that balance. You don't want to force these things. You don't want to come off as offensive or, out of touch with the people that you're trying to, you know, persuade through your pitch, or the people that you're telling, or you're explaining, that you serve through your product and services in your business, right? Your brand. So definitely make sure that it's all in alignment and it's coming across as authentic. Authenticity is kind of like the secret sauce to most of these things. You want to be authentic.
Agreed. And even in the same kind of like thought process around the making something funny or whatever it is, it's like you can talk about the story of why you created XYZ widget, right? It's like, I was sick and tired of having to do this myself on a regular basis, and I figured other people would be sick and tired of having to do this on a regular basis, so I just went out there and I created something because I thought it would be great, right? And it's like that sick and tired of is something very kind of extreme. That's some sort of thing that people can resonate with, right? And they're like, oh yeah, like I'm that same person, right? It's like I remember seeing whatever her name is, Kristen Chenoweth, right, at the Hollywood Bowl, and I was blown away by this, right, because I was there with some friends, and I saw every single person there. She was grabbed everyone's attention so well. Where the woman standing next to me, stranger, no clue who she was, it looked like she was having an intimate moment with her, right? Like in her mind and her perspective. And I was like, that is commanding an audience. That is insanely impressive. That someone, I don't know, we were 30 rows up, right? You know, with people who know the Hollywood Bowl, right? Like this person next to me was one in thousands, or I don't know, however many are do sit there, right? But thousands that are suddenly feeling so engaged. And so if you're able to do something like that, where it's all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, that is me. This person is talking about me, or this person is talking to me. Suddenly that's great engagement, right? Again, all of these, it might be very, very, this might be applicable to you, right? The general you, and not to someone else. So again, go into your strengths. And if you're able to have a comedic performance, that's great, wonderful, right? I remember actually a few years ago, this is pre-COVID, there was someone who was doing a pitch, and she won the pitch competition, but she was a former actor, right? And you could tell her being on stage, she was the most comfortable. Like that's where her zone was. I remember talking to her afterwards, and she was more nervous talking like in a group setting than her on stage. And but that's the thing. And she won that thing. I don't know what happened and stuff like that, but it was remarkable. And that's what her strengths were, right? So if you're timid being on stage, figure out a way to get through that and do your thing, make your magic of who you are. So
Yeah, this is also where experience comes into play in practice. Like the first few times I was pitching, I was horrible at it because I was trying to do it in a way that didn't align with who I am. I was trying to like write a whole script and follow this script. And I was having more anxiety trying to remember what I wrote and stick to the script than just enjoying the fact that I had an opportunity to share what I was doing and connect with people. I got rid of that and I just made a quick little, bullet list of, core kind of like outline of how to tell the story. And I just vibed off that. And it felt so natural, so comfortable. I let go of all that anxiety because it didn't matter. I didn't have to remember anything. I just knew here's the outline and just went into it. And it was what it was. And it was great. It was so much easier. But that was for me. So it's good to put yourself into these different situations where you can practice, and maybe that's you in front of, your family and friends, or it's you finding these different opportunities in the community where you can, practice pitching. Again, I mentioned already, we do a pitch your peers event, which is a workshop where you can practice pitching and get feedback from, me and others in the community. There's others that do that too. Find them on Meetup, find them on Luma, find them on Eventbrite, put yourself out there. Just play around with different methodologies, different techniques, and figure out what comes across best for you. And, maybe one of those things isn't going to be like the magic one that you feel amazing, but you feel better and you build on that. Yeah. And then you keep doing it, and then it becomes, second nature. It's not a big deal.
Making progress is the biggest thing, right? People who do sports, athletics, whatever it is, or playing an instrument, doing a creative, like creating art, crafts, whatever, right? The first time that you do something, it's usually horrible, but as long as you have a smile on your face afterwards, that's great, right? And then you continue to refine, and suddenly you see the progress. It's like, I think those progress videos are great where it's like, the person, all of a sudden there's like some kid who's like 12 years old when they're an artist, and that shows them when they're 25 years old. And it's like, holy crap, they're doing like complete realistic, blah, blah, blah. And that first thing looked like it was a horse drawn with crayon, right? Like it was not the greatest thing at all, right? If you have that application. Another thing, since Gary was talking about how to make yourself comfortable, right? If you're scared in being in front of people, go take improv classes. There's usually community, like organized ones. There's community colleges that offer it. Go do a semester with it, or whatever the class is, how it's framed up. Go do it. Put yourself out there, because they are going to have you do the most goofy things to make you feel, essentially embarrass you, to make sure that you can essentially get through anything. And then when you're on stage, you're suddenly a lot more comfortable, right? Get outside your comfort zones, right? If some of these things that we're talking about, as we talked about before, you have your strengths and weaknesses. If some of your weaknesses is literally being on stage, figure out a way to get through that, because that's one of the ones that you really need to bust through. Because if your startup is going to be as successful as you think it's going to be, whether you're a person who's a CEO that's really going to be a CTO later on, you're still going to be on stage. If you're any of those C-level positions, you're going to be on stage no matter what, and you need to understand and learn how to operate and just be comfortable, right? Some people prefer sitting. Some people prefer to be behind a podium. Some people prefer to be walking around with a microphone, right? Others prefer, to be in sort of like fireside chats, where there's someone who there's a panel, however that might be, right? To Gary's point, some people do like bullet points. I like that too. I used to be so nervous to be on stage. I remember, again, going back to college, this is forever ago now, but being on college in a poli-sci class, having to do a speech, and it was completely written out, almost like the French story, right? And it was like, it was disastrous, right? My friends who knew me, they're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm freaking nervous." Staging is crazy anxiety, right? This is also coming from someone who, I was a music performer, right? I was on stage all the time in an orchestra, a quintet, quartet, blah 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 blah. And they're like, "Dude, you're on stage all the time, and you've done that." I was on a CD back, in an honors orchestra or whatever thing, right? They're like, how are you not just able to stand there and do that, right? And I realized, I'm like, oh, I just need bullet points talking through it, because what created the anxiety behind it is that I felt I needed to memorize this whole thing and all the information and all the data there. And that's kind of the crux that got through it. Sharing these stories, right, is mainly because it's like you all have an essence in there, and also knowing where where your weaknesses are and how to plus those, and then just take the strengths to then overpower that, allow those weaknesses to kind of incubate them, to make them strong, to be able to go out there in the environment.
Yeah, I love those anecdotes, and the biggest thing to take away from that is all progress, all effort is worth celebrating. Don't lose sight of that. Every day, take a moment to feel good about what you're doing. Even if it doesn't turn out the way you wanted to turn out, most things don't, especially when you're new and you're starting out, as Blake explained, you still want to take time to celebrate and feel good about yourself for putting in that effort and for making a little bit of progress. And a lot of times the progress isn't easy to feel and really kind of recognize, but over time it all builds up, and suddenly you're like, holy cow, wow, I can play this solo without even thinking about it now, or I can give this pitch without it being a nervous situation at all, or maybe it's a little bit nervous, but it's something that you're able to understand and manage in a way where it doesn't affect you, right? So just keep with it, keep practicing, keep celebrating all of that. Doylan has
There's
another.
also another thing on that too, I just want to say real quick as well, right? Because it just came up as you're saying it, right? But it's like, as long as someone is seeing that you're putting in the effort, they're not going to fault you for it. Even if you bomb up there, they're going to be like, you tried, right? If you didn't even try, that person is never even going to talk to you, never even see it, right? And there's people that I've seen where they have significantly progressed, and then because of that progression, I'm like, wow, like they dug through it. That is perseverance. That is an admirable quality, right? They might not be able to pitch really well, but you know what? That's admirable. And I'm interested in even in that, right? So don't do this, right? But there could be even a ploy, right, in a pitch where it's like you fail so horribly that people want to talk to you, because there must be something else behind it. Don't do. Don't do that.
No, but I mean, yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? It's about putting in the effort and allowing people to see the effort, and that draws people to you. But again, you don't need to be obsessive about it, or you don't have to go like extreme with it. It's more about being strategic in how you're doing this and when you're doing it and all that. I mean, a lot of this too is about being strategic with your resources, the risk that you're taking, and the different elements that is required to either build a career, build a business, or just be a human being, right? Like every day you're kind of managing your time, you're managing your resources, whatever you got going on. So again, strive for balance and put in that effort where it makes sense and celebrate that and feel good about it. Okay, Doylan's question, or yeah, okay. Okay, so one question that comes to mind that maybe would benefit others as well is when is it the optimal time to be considering seeking further funding and pitching ideas on a larger scale to groups or people interested in supporting the vision? How far can one push a self-funded project?
This is there's so many nuances involved in it, right? It's understanding the various climates that are around it, right? What competitors you have. Is it first mover advantage here? Is it what traction you have? But what I would say is that when you need to significantly scale after you have a proven product, where by having the funding is able to get market capture, market growth, that then is a growth vehicle for the greater benefit of the company. Don't raise money just to raise money. That is wasting the investors' time and effort and energy, your time, effort, and energy. And it's also it'll backfire because you'll have a cap table that's really messy. You just wasted and burned someone's again their finances. And any future investor that's looking at it is like, well, why'd you take on this whatever $100,000? Why'd you take on this $500,000? What did you do with it? What growth did you actually show from that? And what revenues became from it, blah, blah, blah. If you can't show this metrics off or anything, it's going to be detrimental to the long term of your company, right? Again, it's a broad question with broad answers, but those are kind of the main things. It's basically what scale, how is it helping you in general scale your entire company? So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it goes back to strategy, and it really starts first with understanding what stage you're at with your product life cycle and your business life cycle, right? Um, it's also important to do as much as you can on your own to again test and validate your assumptions, iterate and optimize your product and your marketing, your sales, your operations as much as you can, and then leverage that to, as we've been touching on, demonstrate your ability to be a leader, to get things done, to put in the effort, to grow. And this also goes back to demonstrating your aptitude, because that's like at the heart of all this. Are you able to convert the lessons you're learning into wisdom that you can apply to what you do next and more effectively optimize your product, market, sell, and operate a business, right? Because if you're going to investors and fundraising, they're looking at the risk. They're looking at how much risk they're going to have by giving you money. A lot of founders, they focus on trying to showcase the potential. Oh, we've got a whole market opportunity of $40 trillion. We got the biggest market opportunity ever. And it's like investors don't really care about that as much. Like they only care that the market's big enough to scale for a nice return on that. But the more important aspects are the risk factor. What are you doing to diminish the amount of risk that they be taking by giving you their money, right? So this is why it's important to go slow and steady. Make sure you're targeting the best investors possible that align with your mission, your culture, your values, but also what they bring to the table outside of the capital, distribution channels, marketing channels, industry insights that expertise that you don't have, or would be invaluable relationships, other things like that, portfolio companies that could be incredible strategic partners, right? So be aware of all of this. But the sooner you start to reach out to investors, the better. And we say this all the time, not to pitch them, but to lean on them as mentors, to build a relationship with them and vet that relationship. Are you able to engage with each other and enjoy that in that time? Or is it like this person's crazy, right? So you start vetting each other, and in the process of doing that, you end up pitching them without pitching them, right? Because you're getting feedback, you're demonstrating all these things to them about who you are and what your company's doing and your capabilities and all that. So it's always good to start those conversations and reach out to people, but yeah, be aware of when you start taking money and how you do that.
Yeah. And also too, it's the reason why that this is broad and vague, right? Might Here's an example, right? Someone might have gotten a deal where suddenly they're going to plug their product into Walmart because it's this consumer products good, CPG, and all of a sudden they need $1 million or a line of credit for $1 million, whatever that looks like, right? So that they can actually have the capacity to deal with their terms of 90 days, 120, 180, whatever that is, to be able to have the product and then being able to create the inventory that's needed, et cetera, right? That's a reason there, right? Then it can be like we're saying, right, where there's a marketing opportunity where you need to do a marketing spend of 10K a month for the next 12 months, and that's where your capture is, and here's the metrics that back that up, right? So it's database informed decisions of why you're doing the fundraising that are about it, right? And then it's also not, well, can't you just, if an investor says, can't you just do these things yourself? Can't just do this instead of it being $100,000 for that? How can you do it for 10 grand? How can you do it for $500? Whatever that is, that you have an answer and there's a reason for it, right? There has to be the reason for the money to come in. And it's not just because, well, I have this whole, thought and idea for it, right? So the further that you've proven out your thesis in this entire, in whatever your startup, your company is, that's where you're going to have, I feel, the best impact with an investor, right? And the reason for it too. Also, don't ask for too much and don't ask for too little. If you ask for too little and they see that, an investor's going to be like, you don't even know what you're doing. So, yeah.
Again, balance and methodology, being able to, again, explain what you're doing. That's incredible. Appreciate you bringing that up, Blake. Okay, we're coming up on time. So, last call for questions. Now's the time for last call for questions. Do it. Let's see if anyone has anything else to do. Someone's trying to sell followers on Twitch. Doctor, ban them. Okay. So hang on. All right. So William, Andrew, David. You guys have anything over here on Startmata? You can jump on stage real quick if you'd like. You have special privileges. If not, then I'm gonna move right into the usual closeouts with Blake. All right. Okay. All right, Blake. So, what? It's been not a whole month because we had a little bit of delay last time. But has anything come up that you've seen that you would like to share with the community that can be an opportunity to learn with everyone? Like you saw someone make a mistake and you have a suggestion on how to avoid that, something common, or you experienced something, you learned something new and you want to share and impart it with others. Anything like that?
Yeah, I think there's two things that come into mind. And I won't share who it's from, but it's someone that's a mutual friend of the 805 group and everything like that. But we were on a call and all of a sudden we were talking about we literally went through each other's weak points. And it was really refreshing because we were actually talking about someone else's that we both knew and not behind their back by any means, but it was sort of like, yeah, this is how we should collectively help each other, in this. And we went through it and it was extremely rewarding because at the same time, it wasn't like, here's a criticism, here's just drilling you into the ground. It was like, no, I've seen you improve, right? And it's kind of like, let's do this callback. I think it was Andrew brought up the comedian stuff, right? But here's a callback on it, right? Where it's You're seeing improvement that's happening, right? And they're calling attention to that and saying, hey, that's a good job. And this person is a peer. We do business together. We do a bunch of stuff. We talk all the time. And it's like, it was very rewarding to once feel seen, right? And also recognize these certain things and also want the reciprocal feedback in that environment too, because they felt that, hey, there's certain things that each one of us sees because we have different perspectives, life events, and everything like that that happens, right? The other side of it too is that, I think that there's a big uh, there's right now there's a looming of like what is going to happen in this world, right? And not to get into the politics side of it, but more so of like what is happening and how to respond to it. But I think that there are always little nuggets when things are extremely trying. The businesses that actually start to when you a lot of times when you see a very successful business occur, it actually was started or it was able to last through trying times during a downturn, right? So weather the storm, figure out how to do it, and do it in the sense that also is responsive to it, and where there's these little nuggets that can actually propel you forward. It's sort of like judo trick, right? It's like using the energy of your opponent and actually putting it back so that it can actually propel you forward and to kind of get through the scenario that's in front of you. So look at it ahead of time, understand where the nuances are and how the impact is going to happen and how you can actually come out on top and survive it and then thrive on the other side of it. So
No, that's wonderful, and it's something that's important to be aware of too. Is being honest with yourself and with others. You don't need to try so hard and misrepresent yourself to yourself or to others in any way. And it goes back to again about that authenticity, being transparent, being honest. And this applies to you again with Doylan and your early stage product, right? It's going to be more effective to communicate those hurdles that you're facing, what stage you're at, the fact that it's an early stage product. You could even call it beta. So over here where Blake's doing this event on Start Mata, I have a tag on it for our community that says beta. I want everyone to know it's a work in progress, and I want their feedback. I want their insight. I want their help to make this better and as enjoyable and beneficial as it can possibly be, right? And that in a way also invites people to play a role in that, and it in some ways empowers them because they see that there's a role for them to play by sharing their opinion, their insights, their feedback, right? And so all of this kind of plays into itself. And yeah, call back again, right? It's about building those authentic relationships with each other and doing things that don't scale when you start, so you can get the most useful information, make the most informed decisions, and really get to that next stage in the most effective way possible. So yeah, I really appreciate that, Blake. Yeah, this is awesome. Blake, you're always the best. I look forward to you coming back again. I want to
thanks, man.
thank, yeah, yes, thank you. I want to thank Andrew Doylan for throwing out some questions, really good questions. Everyone else for hanging out with us and being a part of this. Thank you so much. Any final little call outs, attention you want to bring to something, you want to promote something? Now's the time.
No, overall, I always appreciate you, always appreciate the community and stuff like that. I think that it's during, let's call it trying times, uncertainty, and stuff like that. I always, it's very, um, I love trees, right? I'm going to make this as quick as possible. I love trees. I love nature in general, and I think that there's a lot to learn from trees. The reason why that they're able to grow so big and strong is because of the amount of stress of the environment and the impact and atmospheric, all of the pressures that are around it, right? If it didn't have any stress, it wouldn't be able to grow. And literally, there's studies about it where if there's no stress in this scenario, they fall over on themselves. So do all the things to weather the storm, and at the end of it, you can be this, mighty sequoia. So, all right, appreciate you all. Thanks.
Awesome. What a great note to end on. All right. Take care, everyone.